welcome to Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids, a series of cautionary tales for lovers of scream. I call this tale Grandmother's Footsteps. It's not my story, so don't blame me when you're scared stiff. This ghost story belongs to a little boy who couldn't go to sleep at night. Excuse me one moment. That's better. Now we can begin. I couldn't sleep. There was a man outside my bedroom window. He was a huge man with long black fingernails and wild grey hair. He was trying to get me to let him in, but I wouldn't. I was too scared. He might have been a ghost. So I lay there for most of the night, just listening to his fingers tapping on the window pane, until finally I plucked up enough courage to speak. "Grandma!" I squeaked. "Grandma!" And Grandma came running. When I told her that there was a ghost outside my window, she laughed. "But I've heard it," I said. "Listen." We listened to the tapping, and she laughed some more. "And I've seen it," I added, pointing to the shadow that loomed through my curtain. My grandma stopped laughing. "I'm going to tell you a ghost story," she said, pulling me up onto her knee. The smell of mothballs was so strong it made me cough. "There was a boy," she said, "not much older than you. His name was Jolyon, and he lived in a huge, drafty old house on the edge of a graveyard." "Is he the ghost?" I asked. "No," said my grandmother, "not Jolyon. His bedroom was right at the top of the house, in a dark, dark room that had once been full to the ceiling with spiders, earwigs, and big black beetles." I pulled the shawl off her shoulders and tucked it into my ears. I felt safer when her voice was ever so slightly muffled. "Go on," I said. "This boy who looked like me was in his spooky old bedroom, and there was a ghost." "Not yet," said Grandma. "Is the ghost behind the door?" I squealed. "Is it a mad, ranting, blood-sucking ghost waiting to stuff a straw into Jolyon's head and suck his brains out like a banana milkshake?" "No," said Grandma. "The ghost hasn't turned up yet. But there will be one, as sure as day turns to night," she assured me. "Now, this boy, Jolyon," my grandmother drew me closer and wound her chicken bone arms tightly across my chest. "He was in his bedroom reading a dusty book by candlelight." "A ghost book?" "No, the ghost comes later." Suddenly, the candle spluttered and went out. In the moonlight, Jolyon could just make out a shadowy figure outside his window. "The ghost!" I yelled. "Not yet," said Grandma. It was then that Jolyon heard the scratching. "Is it the ghost, Grandma?" I asked from underneath her shawl. "No, dear. Be patient. Just wait and see." Grandma made a funny clicking noise with her teeth and carried on. Jolyon was underneath the bedclothes in a flash. A ghostly hand was scratching at his window. His mouth was dry. His shiny white knuckles stood out in the gloom under his blankets. Then the scratching stopped. There was a deadly silence. Jolyon gasped. He closed his eyes and wished with all his might that his ghostly visitor might go away. He wished and wished and wished, and that was when the knocking started. "It is the ghost!" I shouted, holding tightly onto Grandma's shawl. "It is not," she said, stroking my hair. "The ghost comes at the end, but Jolyon doesn't know that because he's in the story." Grandma took out her left eye and polished it. "Well, go on," I said impatiently. Jolyon lay in his bed, terrified to move, lest this huge beastly skeleton should leap into the room and chop him up with an axe. Suddenly, there was a terrible crash of glass as giant fingers smashed through the window. Jolyon screamed as his bedroom door burst open. "This must be the ghost," I yelped. "No," said my grandmother. "Not long now, though." It was Jolyon's grandmother bouncing into his bedroom, wielding a copper bedpan. She had heard his screams for help and had leapt from her bed to protect him. "Don't let the ghost get me," sobbed Jolyon from underneath his blankets. "Don't let the ghost chop me up and eat me." I looked at Grandma, and she looked straight back at me. "But you said it wasn't a ghost outside the window." "It wasn't," she replied. "The tapping was just the wind, blowing the branches from an old dead tree against the window. Then the wind became a storm, and the branches battered the glass until it smashed. It was Jolyon's imagination that created the ghost." I asked her if that was what had happened to me. She said she thought it probably was. "Oh," I said, feeling rather small and embarrassed. Then I added, "If Jolyon's ghost was not a real ghost after all, then you lied to me." "Did I?" said my grandmother. "You said that you were going to tell me a ghost story." "And so I did." "And you definitely said that the ghost would appear at the end." "That's right. And here I am." She stopped at the door and removed her head to rest her tired shoulders. Then she just disappeared, and I was sure I heard her ghostly footsteps treading a path back into a different world. Time I went to bed, I think. And time I woke up. Did you guess who the ghost was? Not very hard, was it? No.
Totally summer, totally fantastic.